Okay, this is the Astro Observers for November 2021 observing reports. And here you go. This is WZ Cassiopeia. Remember that night we were up there at Hawk Mountain, we were looking at some red stars. This is the one I was looking at through the 8.2-inch f3.9 Dob. And it's a very vivid red star, a carbon star, which means that and it's an old star, it's an old red giant star, and there's a lot of carbon in its atmosphere, more than oxygen. So it gives you that deep red color. And it's really neat, you know, in this part of the sky, because you're in Cassiopeia and you have a real rich area, and this brilliant red star sticks out. Now you look here and there's like a blue-white star, and you're thinking, well, is it a double star? It's not. It's actually farther out, I believe, than the carbon star. So, but it looks like it's a visual double, especially if you use lower magnification. You can see them together. You can get that color in WZ really stands out. But this is one of the more red stars that you'll find in the night sky, and been looking at this for years. I mean, you know, I kind of like nicknamed it Cherry Star years. Going back, 1985, I believe it was. It was in my backyard when we had our place in Royersford, old home in Royersford. And I had a 8-inch Schmidt Cassegrain, Meade Schmidt Cassegrain. And I was just like cruising through this part of Cassiopeia. And this star just all of a sudden, boom, right there it was. And it was like this vivid red star. And of course, my wife being a redhead, you know, I was like, wow. There you go. But but it is a beautiful red star, and it's not too far from I believe is it Beta Cassiopeia. So it's not too far from that, and it really is. It really is a neat. If you want to show somebody a really deep red star color without having to take a photograph, there you go. There's a star that really shines a deep red, and it's a variable too, so it'll go from like 6.5 magnitude down to like 9th magnitude, and of course the dimmer it is, the more red, deeper red it'll look. And when it's brighter, it's not quite as deep a red, but it'll show really a good color even when it's at its brightest. But as it starts dimming and you get it at around 8th and 9th magnitude.
So what's the period on it?
I'm not certain off the top of my head. That's a good question. I'm not certain off the top of my head. So you have to probably look that up. But I know that I think the other night when we were looking at it, I believe it was probably around 8th magnitude. So it was probably dimmer. That's why it really stood out with that really red color. In fact, I think it was even slightly deeper red. This looks more like an orange color. I think it was a little deeper red, more crimson color when we were looking at it, but it is really neat to see.
Well, then Josh, you had that red star that you found just scanning, remember?
Yep. That's in my catalog. It was just labeled as a R. I was going through Interstellarium and they had the red stars marked, and I forget where it's. I would have to look in my notes to see exactly where. But well, I was doing some star hopping in the region. I thought, well, I'll just swing over whenever I'm near one of them. I always go check it out, and you know, it's pretty hit or miss, but that one was it really popped.
Really red, yeah.
Yep. That was one of the reddest stars I've ever seen.
Well, that's the other thing too is that if you look at this, say this one here, in a, you know, because I was looking at it with a little over 8-inch telescope. You put that 20-inch you have, Rob, or a 25-inch you have, Josh, on this star, it's even more red. It's even more red. So anyway, from yeah, go ahead, bro. Okay. And then not too far from here, there's a pair of clusters. It's NGC 788 and NGC 790. 788's right here and 790's right here. And you can see it's in a really rich region. And it kind of, when I was looking at it, now of course I didn't see as many stars here, so the cluster stood out a little more. It kind of reminded me of a poor man's double cluster.
Yeah, that's Certainly looks like it, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a poor man's double cluster, and it was nice. It was nice. I was resolving stars out of it, and it was just neat seeing both clusters like this side by side. Now, I'm not certain. I tried to look to see about distances, and I could not find the distances. And so, which if there's one cluster is much farther than the other, I'm not certain. I mean, like you have like M35 and NGC 2158 in Gemini, where M35 is much closer, and then you have the much farther distant 2158. I'm not certain about here. I'm kind of guessing they're probably pretty close. You know, the stars in them are pretty close in brightness, so I'm guessing that the clusters themselves are fairly close. Certainly not like M35 and 2158, but it was a really nice view. It wasn't far from WZ Cassiopeia, and I was looking on the charts and I was thinking, oh, well, let's. I don't think I've seen these. I might have a long distant past and just never took note of them. But yeah, it was really nice. It was a nice view.
Looking at them on Sky Safari right now, and they, they show them as pretty large on the map, and it's in a chock full of star area. So
Right.
yeah, I don't know if I'm familiar with them or not, but
Yeah.
check
That would
them
be.
out.
I'm thinking, maybe in the next dark window. I just want to check them out here with the 4.7-inch refractor. It'd be interesting to see how the refractor reacts to this with those pinpoint stars and so on. So,
And you feel they stood out from the background of all those?
Yeah,
stars?
they did. They did stand out a bit. Yeah. There's no, you could see there were definitely two clusters there. And like I said, the first thing that came to my mind is like, oh, this is like a poor man's, double cluster. I mean, nothing like the double cluster, but it's just neat to have these two clusters. And like I said, I'm looking at this photograph and even remembering what I saw in the eyepiece, that they were very similar. So I'm thinking that the two clusters are fairly close as far as distance between us and them. And then I had this for Galaxy Log, and you can see it's a split view here. And the view here on the left was from 11.2 using the 8.2-inch f3.9 at 127 magnification. And there's the 8.2 on a new Dob mount. And then the view here on the right with this, it's an actual tree. Well, it's not an actual tree. I'll explain that in a minute. And then here's what the 12-inch from a darker site. And here's 315, of course, is the bigger, brighter galaxy. Here's that's an elliptical galaxy. Here's the distances, and I'll point out each galaxy here. Now we go over to the smaller scope, and of course here's 315 right here. And it looked pretty good. I mean, it stood out fairly well. Little bright nucleus, more round, even though in the bigger scope there's a little bit more oval shape. I kind of got a hint of being oval. And then NGC 3111, which is about the same distance, so their actual pairing is right about here. So I know it's harder to pick up. It's easier to see in the bigger scope, but it's right here, and that was 13th magnitude. And then the dimmest one is NGC 3118 at over 14th magnitude, but it's farther away also. And I couldn't see it. If you look here next to this faint field star, that's 3118. But you could see, I mean, what almost 4 inches of aperture difference. I mean, 3111 stood out really, really well in the 12. Had a nice elongation to it, a little stellar nucleus. The elliptical was nice and bright. And I was actually surprised when at 14.2 at 3118 stood out really well, a little stellar nucleus to it. It is small though. I mean, you look, here's the size right here. It's very small. But these are actual, these two here, 3115 and 3111 are actual duo. They are same distance in space. But 3118 is a background galaxy. It's about 20 million light years farther out, so it's not really connected with these two. But yeah, it was good. It was pretty neat to compare the views and with my notes and everything like that, and what I could see, because when I went for this was, of course, the second night, a couple of nights later, with the 12-inch. You know, it was one of my things I really wanted to go for, because I did take notes for Galaxy Log for this one with the 8.2. But I said, I wanted to see what it is, and then I figured, I'll do a split screen. So that's what I did. So it gives you an idea, people an idea of the difference between a 4 inches of aperture, just about 4 inches of aperture. So it's a cool trio to go for.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a planned observation for this next dark window, and it's NGC 1084 in Aerodynamics. And it's actually one of the brighter galaxies in Aerodynamics. Now, Aerodynamics, as all we know, is a great galaxy area. The problem, though, for us here in Pennsylvania and north, is that Aerodynamics, of course, sits low in the sky. And a lot of the great galaxies in Aerodynamics really low in the sky. So you do need good southern horizon, dark southern horizon to get a lot of, but this one here is a little higher up, a little bit farther north in the constellation. So I'm very interested to see what I can get out of this galaxy with the 12-inch in the next dark window. You can see it's fairly bright. It's brighter than 11th magnitude. Surface brightness is fairly high. It's pretty decent size. But you know, this you can see there's a lot of activity going on in this galaxy. And what I mean by that, there's the Hubble image of it. You know, that's an amazing image. You know, a lot of bright young stars there, a lot of star clouds. I'm thinking, even with the smaller telescope, on a good night at a good dark site with a good southern horizon, that probably you'll get a lot of. I'm gonna go back to the other. Probably get a lot of. You probably get a nice stellar nucleus out of it, but I think you get a lot of modeling out of it. And I think with the big scopes, I think you might be able to get some spiral out of it. I really do. So that's one that you might want to put down. And like I said, it's not one of the far distant southern ones in the constellation. It's a little farther north, and be a good one to go for. Good one to go for.
I'm trying to see what time it transits.
Yeah, I definitely think the 20 and the 25 is your guys. I definitely think from a dark site, and I think
transits at 10:36.
There you go. And so good one to have for the next dark window.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that you'll be able to get some spiral structure out of it. I think if you really play around with, because you know the surface brightness is high, because it's not a real big. I mean, it's decent size. It's 3.2 by 1.8. But it is bright. It's good magnitude. And it's good surface brightness. So I'm thinking you guys play around with the with magnification. I think you can get some spiral out of this. And there's no doubt. I think that the 12-inch will get a lot of modeling out of it. So it'll be interesting to see what I can get out of the 12 and see what some of the bigger scopes in the club. I'll have to wait till with the new 20. I'll have to wait till next fall to look for it, because the 20 is not due till spring. So, but yeah, this is a good one to go for, guys.
Yeah.
And as you guys well know, Aerodynamics is just chock full of galaxies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you said, unfortunately, it's a little on the low side, but there's a lot of them in there.
Right. Yeah, and not quite as low as some of the other galaxies, the other good galaxies, and you know, like NGC 1300, that Bard spiral, which is, you know, you go into the south and like say Florida or something like that, and look at that baby with a big scope. You see that bar and arms and stuff like that. It's one of the grand bar spirals of the night sky, but that's farther south than this one.
Yeah, I looked at that down at Calhoun, 1300.
How'd it look?
It looked okay, but it was, you know, I didn't spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah,
It's still low.
Still low. That's the thing. Yeah, because you're looking through more atmosphere. So.
Well, you know, it's interesting though too if you think about it. I'm just kind of looking through the catalog here, and you know, M42, that sits right around. That's between like -5 and -6.
Right.
degrees, and 1084 sits between -7 and -8. So I mean,
Right.
N42, if you hit it at when it transits at its peak,
Right.
it's definitely high enough. So yeah, this 1084, that'll be a good one.
Yeah, good one to go for. And like I said, I think good night from a good dark side. I think your big scopes will be able to get some spiral structure out of it.
Yep.
I don't think it'll look like this though, quite like this one.
Not quite.
So, all right, then I actually this is I took this photograph of here of the 12-inch up at the DS Edge that night. Then I decided to take a photograph of my table setup, and now I had my charts. I had the CCD Atlas, had my notes here, my coffee, of course, and then I wrote this. And it's funny, I posted it. I think it's a Facebook page. It's on Dobsonian, with Dobsonian, so it's people who own Dobsonians. And I posted this photograph, and one of the comments I got was that they were really glad to see actually somebody who's looking through a telescope and taking all the pictures. And so yeah, I know I don't have the digital sighting circles on this and stuff like that, but it is kind of fun to sit down at a table, and look at the charts and hunt down, a galaxy or whatever. So I thought it would be a cool picture to take.
Yeah.
And I really, in my heart, this is absolutely true. I mean, I see your 20-inch, Rob, as an extension of yourself, and Josh, your Mr. Big 25, and it is. I mean, it's an instrument that extends your own self, your own eye, to see the universe, and so it almost becomes like part of your personality, and that's why I think it's funny. I think why I got a little bit emotional on both selling the Beast, the 8-inch refractor, and the 22, handing the keys over to somebody else, and because both of those scopes, I remember back of all the times I used them, and all the views I've had through it. Like I mentioned earlier to you guys before we started here about first light, and back in 98 with the 22 was NGC 2841, and just being blown away by it. And first light for the first official light for the 8-inch refractor was the Leo Trio. But like I said, when I decided to sell both in both occasions, it became it was a little emotional, because like I said, it becomes part of you. And
yeah, I can understand that.
So
Completely.
So think about that when you look at your scopes and you're out there using them, that what those scopes are doing for you. It's absolutely amazing.
Now, were you also practicing T-ball that night?
T-ball. How did he get up that
high?
high?
My baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see it in the lower right corner.
Yeah, I have that out.
Yeah.
So.
No, I was wondering, were you standing on the ladder when you took that picture?
No, I was actually just standing up, and I held the camera up high above my head.
Looks pretty high. Yeah.
Huh?
It looks pretty high.
Yeah, I held it up over my head and took down. Couldn't see what it's doing. And actually, this might have been the first shot. So I was actually pretty lucky, because I took a couple shots and like that to make sure I got everything. But
yeah, the composition's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a neat picture. It kind of embodies the spirit of the visual astronomer.
It does. Yeah, it has everything.
The open lot, and eye on the sky, eye in the Atlas, and it's just an endless treasure hunt.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
like where's Waldo on a cosmic scale?
Yes, definitely. That's for sure. And then I wanted to show this then, new phone night pics. These new phones that are available today with the night mode. Absolutely.
I just got a new phone today. I can't wait to try the eyepiece projection.
Yeah, it is incredible. Now, I'm not going to be getting into imaging. I truly love looking through an eyepiece. I mean, there's various reasons and so on, but I really love looking through an eyepiece. But I think it's pretty with these new phones and these night modes. I think they might actually stimulate even more. I know astronomy has gotten a little bit bigger over the past year or so, but I think these phones with these night modes will actually maybe stimulate more of an interest, saying, "Wow, I could take a picture." And here's the first one of the moon, and I
That's
mean,
pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive.
That was just incredible, you know. I mean, here's Tycho right here, you know, just like standing right out. You know, you look at the dark seas and stuff. It's just beautiful. I was actually just like, wow, that's really incredible. And then,
now I understand why the last dark window was so amazing, because I was living in a parallel universe. This isn't the real universe. Karl's talking about taking pictures of the moon and describing it.
Yeah, I know. But you know what? If anybody, if people get influenced by this or whatever like that, and they want to know more about astronomy, because I'll tell you what, when I first started as a kid and like that was the first object I looked at. You know, I was just blown away with it with a 60 millimeter refractor.
Yeah,
and, around here in the Northeast corridor, unless you take people out and do a star party, if they're going to get interested in astronomy, it's going to be the moon, the planets, and a meteor shower or something.
Yep. And I think, like I said, with these new phones and they these kind of quality pictures, you know, zooming in. I mean, this was not like through an eyepiece projection. This is actual just holding the camera up and zooming in, and boom, clicking away, and there it is. There's the moon. I just can't believe. I couldn't believe the detail. I was dumbfounded by it when I saw that. And then was this photograph?
Yeah, that's great.
I know it's more of an artsy kind of photograph. And what it was, you guys know this from when I talked to you guys privately off of Astro Observers here, that I was up at Hawk Mountain, and it was the end of that observing night, and I figured, you know what, I said this night mode in these cameras, I'm gonna try it out, and Orion was up nice and high in the sky, so I started taking some pictures, and I was like, holy cow, that's beautiful. I couldn't believe it. So I thought to myself, a few years ago, it was after a snowstorm, and then the moon was up, and it was kind of late at night. It was this crystal clear sky, and it was just enough moon to light up the snow on these huge fir trees. These are huge. This one here is probably 80 feet. And this was just snow in there. And I'm standing on my back deck and looking at this image of the Orion constellation. And the moon, it was a sliver of a moon, but it was enough to light up, might have been quarter moon or so, enough to light up the tree and the snow on the trees. And there's Orion. I'm like, holy cow. Now, I didn't have any kind of equipment to take a picture. So on my way home, from the site, from Hawk Mountain that night, I was thinking about that. I was thinking, oh, wow, Orion will probably be between those two big trees from my deck. So when I got home, went right out to the deck, and there it was. And I snapped it away.
Cool shot. I remember there was I can't remember if it was Sky and Telescope or Astronomy Magazine. They had done a picture contest, and they took a lot of the photos that they got, and they just made it was a fairly thick magazine. It was like a special edition magazine they did. And the grand prize winner was a picture of Orion. It was taken out in Wyoming above, like Rocky Mountain pine trees.
Right.
And it was a beautiful picture. Had the snow like you're talking about. And that was the grand prize winner, of all the deep sky photographs and stuff that they had and that were in that magazine.
Right. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm crossing my fingers. I mean, I'm not a big fan of snow, but if the moon's up, and we get a bit of snow and it coats those trees, I'm definitely going to redo this shot again, of course.
Yeah, parallel universe, Rob. Would you not agree? It's a parallel universe. I mean, Karl's talking about astrophotography of the moon. And, well, if we get some snow, that would
I know.
it's wonderful.
I know. It's like like a reflective surface of lights and stuff like
He
that.
did preface the evening by telling us he wasn't feeling well.
No, I'm not feeling.
Well, you know, there was those bright meteors that came in when we were down in Calhoun. Maybe maybe that was the ship's landing, and this isn't the real Karl.
Yeah, it's true. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, right? But yeah, so but like I said, I think if with these new phones and what they can do at night and taking these kind of pictures, like I said, if it stimulates more people wanting to know more, maybe eventually say, oh well, let me look at the moon through a telescope and buying a telescope and getting a telescope and getting more involved, that'd be pretty cool. So
Yeah.
at least
Good stuff.
yep. So that's it for me. All right, Rob.
All right. Let's see if I did this right. Okay, can you see that okay?
Yep.
All right, so this was first weekend in November, Friday night into Saturday, and Saturday night into Sunday, the 5th, 6th, and 7th. Good conditions. It was cold. Dewed up both nights late in the session. I shouldn't say late in the evening. It was more like early in the morning. But manageable. And I can't say enough about Calhoun County Park. It's a wonderful place to observe. Probably the darkest I had my telescope out. I mean, Cherry Springs, Sean's, and Calhoun, those are the 3 darkest places I've had it. And this was back-to-back nights, which I didn't get to do at either one of those other places. So it was probably my most satisfying observing sessions with my new telescope, which I really enjoyed. I really liked the whole arrangement of that setup of going to Calhoun. I was telling you before, Karl, that you drive right past the hotel, you're at the park in a half an hour, and you're home in a half an hour after you're done observing. So after you pack up. So there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, I like Cherry Springs because I like camping up at the site and not having to pack up the telescope. So that always has an advantage to me, even though Calhoun's probably darker. I'm certain it's darker, but after Cherry Springs, I would put Calhoun as my second favorite place as far as comfort of maximizing your observing session and being able to get back to a room and get a good sleep to do it again the next night. And it would be even better if you could leave your telescope there. But getting home in a half an hour from observing was really nice. And I think that helped for the next observing night. Josh, maybe you can chime in on that. Like you did it 4 nights, I only did it 2, but you're not driving an hour and 15 or an hour and 20 minutes after you're done observing, which that can take a kick out of you.
Yeah. Yep. And it eliminates some of that danger of, getting tired on that drive home.
Yeah, exactly.
The longer you're driving home after an all-nighter, the greater your risk increases. So
Yeah.
it was nice. I was thinking about
you could look at it the other way too and say gave you an extra half hour observing too. If you depending on how you look at it. I mean, so we observed until it was almost light astronomical twilight, but it was like, hey, that's no big deal. I'm going to be sleeping in a half an hour, so I got good night's sleep both times. I felt comfortable both days. So anyway, it was a wonderful observing session. So it was really hard for me to, kind of whittle down the objects that I wanted to talk about. But I kind of highlighted the ones that kind of stood out to me for different reasons. So the first one, Karl, this is the one you and I had spoken about before I went down.
Yep.
The NGC 70 group.
Yep.
This was really spectacular, and it was like one of the first objects I looked at. And you know, this little string of stars and galaxies combined, it's really kind of cool. It's like star, star, galaxy, star, star, galaxy, star, star, galaxy. These five, this is 68, 69. I didn't annotate these, sorry. I can do it later if you want. 68, 69, 70, 71, and 72. These are about 13th and 14th magnitude galaxies. They were really easy to see. I could not pick up this guy over here. I think he was 17th magnitude. But, you know, these were very visible, very bright, and very pleasing to look at. And it kind of gave me an idea of what to expect for the night to come, because, you know, when you look in your eyepiece and see 13th and 14th magnitude galaxies like they're stars, it was like, wow, this is gonna be a pretty good night. And you know, it was. And just like the last time when I was up at Cherry Springs, I found objects to push my telescope, mainly that 383 group that we looked at, Josh, the Pisces cluster.
Yeah. Yep. I'm actually featuring that one tonight.
Well, I didn't because I figured you would.
Yeah.
And I think I got the 16.3 galaxy in my telescope. I couldn't get to the 16.6 or I think there was a 17th magnitude, but I was happy with what I was seeing. So anyway, this was a good way to start the evening, and I knew it was going to be a good night. And to tell you the truth, I lost track of which one of these were Friday into Saturday and Saturday into Sunday, but the conditions were about the same, I thought, for Friday and Saturday night. Next one, this kind of gives you an example of when you go from dark skies, relatively dark skies, to very, very dark skies. So I can get this at home. You know, it's all relative about your eyes too. You know, some other people in the club may see NGC 100 a lot easier than I can. You know, I struggle to see it sometimes from like Hawk Mountain. I've seen it from DS Edge, but it's very faint and it's very nondescript, and it's just kind of more like I can see it. That's kind of cool. But down there, it was really the ghost of a galaxy that it has the reputation to be, and it was really cool seeing how thin and ghostly that galaxy is. And I got some really good views of it. I think I also had it under a little lower power too than what I have here. But you know, again, just looking in the eyepiece and not having to think or look to see if you're seeing it, and just put your eye to the eyepiece and go, oh, there's NGC 100. You know, that was kind of cool to kind of knock that off the list and get a really good view of it. So that was fun seeing that. You know, I don't know what it is with this year with me and Cygnus, but I can't seem to let Cygnus go. It's amazing to me how high up it still is in November. And for some reason, I wanted to check out this 7008 planetary, and it blew my mind. I know this is one of your favorite galaxies, I mean, a planetary nebulous, Karl.
Yep.
This thing, it actually looked like this photograph. I mean, you could get down into the core of that thing and see that this inner fetal, you know, this gaseous stuff element here that really looked like its name. But I just could not believe how bright it was. It was just screaming out of the eyepiece, and it was very beautiful to look at. And I bumped the power up on it. I put a UHC filter on it, but I didn't have to. I kind of felt I think my best view was this 254 X. That was a really good view. and it was still pretty high up. I didn't sacrifice anything by going after it. So really, really fun object to look at. And it's kind of neat when you look at objects that you're familiar looking at compared to how you see them at home, compared to how you see them under darker skies, and it clearly, obviously, makes the difference.
Yep.
So this was a really neat object to see.
Yep.
All right, so here's one again. This is more about the perception of what you see and how good your eyes are. You know, when I look at Stefan's quintet at home, I can tell there's 5 galaxies in there. It looks a little crowded to me, you know, and sometimes I have to wait for the conditions to be right, or you know, I've got to get it at the right, you know, near its you know, when it's crossing the meridian.
Mm-hmm.
And you can enjoy this from any dark location, and I've had really good views of this up at DS Edge. But down there at Calhoun, it was just putting your eye to the eyepiece and saying, oh, look at those 5 galaxies. If you didn't know it was Stefan's quintet, you would just say, oh, look at those 5 galaxies in the eyepiece. I don't think you get that back home here. If somebody didn't know what they were looking at, if you told them to look in the eyepiece, they'd say like, well, I see some galaxies. There's a, you know, some of it's a little, it looks, you know, it looks like there's a few combined. I can't say how many there are, but down there it was just like boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can really see the shape of the different galaxies. You know, you can pick them out kind of individually and give them their own attention, which is what I did when I put it under eye power. I kind of scanned around a little bit and looked at each one of these sections individually, and that was really fun to do. And it was just jet black,
Right.
jet black background. They were screaming, and there's something about having the your eyes detect the photons from multiple galaxies at the same time. I don't know what it is, but you just get a little bit like you start getting your adrenaline flowing a little bit, because you're staring into that eyepiece, and all of a sudden you realize like, oh, I'm getting bombarded here with this like fuzzy patch of light that I can now dissolve into individual objects,
Right.
and it's really quite thrilling.
Yep.
So that was really fun. That was a really good test to see how dark it was down there. This next one was kind of interesting. Can't recall ever seeing this galaxy before.
Yeah, see this.
If I did, I don't recall it, but this is 157 in Cetus.
Mm-hmm.
Spent a little time down there in Cetus because I know that, you know, it's got such great galaxies, but hard to see at home sometimes. And this, I remember telling Doc, who was next to me, I said, you have to come and look at this object. And he said, well, what do you have? I said, I'm going to give it a name. I called it the Pelican Galaxy, because this might not do it as much, but if you look at some CCD images of it, this little arm down here, it just stood out like so pronounced, and it looks like a pelican. And you could actually see that through the eyepiece. It was amazing. You could make out this whole shape, and where it's split here, and this dark lane coming down here like this. It was absolutely stunning. It was like, I spent a lot of time on this object just because it was so bright and so vivid.
Yeah.
And it matched the CCD image to a T. So I don't know, are you familiar with this galaxy?
Yeah, yes, I am. Yep,
Yeah.
good one to go for.
Yeah,
It's easy to
awesome.
find too. I mean, it's really easy to find.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's very bright, 10th magnitude.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't recall ever seeing that one.
Yeah, that's a good one, Josh. It's a really good galaxy.
And the amazing thing is, it's like, you know, we were talking about this, Karl, before I went down. you get to do two things when you're under dark skies. You get to go for faint objects that you wouldn't see at home, but you also get to see the objects that you see at home in a way you've never seen them before.
Right.
And to me, I find that as entertaining or as fulfilling as going for, you know, something even fainter, because to me, well, I'm not against going to the, you know, I was trying to push my telescope and I wanted to see as much as I could. But at some point, if you keep going fainter and fainter, then you're seeing faint objects. And you know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
I can see faint objects at home. I don't want to go to a dark location and see faint objects. I want to see something that I can't see. So I really appreciated seeing so much detail in some of the objects that I'm used to seeing that I don't normally get to see. In addition to seeing, you know, 15th and 16th magnitude galaxies a lot more easily than I can see at home.
Right.
Yeah, that's
And then-
also that's at -8 degrees too.
Yes.
You know, that is one of the advantages of Pettigrew
Going south.
or West
Yeah.
Virginia. Like as you head
Yep.
south, you know, these objects rise. Like I know I was struck by how high in the sky Orion was from North Carolina,
Yeah.
and again how high it was in West Virginia. It makes a difference as you put in a few hours drive time heading south.
It does. And Josh, I had the same feeling. Like, and I was standing out there and I was trying to think like, shoot, do I want to go down into this, you know, do I want to go down towards the horizon? And then how far down towards the horizon do you want to go? Because no matter how dark it is, the lower you go, the less, you know, the more
Right.
atmosphere you're looking through. So you know, I was kind of having to pull myself away and go, get back up, go
Right.
up, go up, go up, you know. But then it's like, no, I want to see like objects and see this. I want to see objects in aerodynamics. I don't get to see these at home. So anyway, that was kind of a little game I was playing with myself, and it's like a game you cannot lose, because you know, you either go low and you find objects that you've never seen in this kind of detail before, or you go up and you just see objects that are screaming at you and begging for higher power and, you know, more detail. So I was just really appreciating how good the horizons were there, and because we were further south, how much more you could see. And that's what I really enjoy about going down there, is picking up some of those objects that are just a little lower than what we get at home, but right in that little Goldilocks zone where you can still get really good, solid views of them without sacrificing atmospheric haze. And there were a number of those objects. And the next one,
you can go low down there because of how good the horizons are.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So this next one, you know, it's an obvious one, but I had to put it in only because it was just awesome. I can't describe how beautiful this object was down there. And I put high power on it, and I was trying to find an image that kind of captured what I was seeing. And I don't know if I can, let's see if I can, I don't know if I can go, I can't enlarge this right now under this system that I'm on, but first I had it under low power and it was just stunning, just absolutely stunning. And I looked at it through binoculars and it was stunning in binoculars. But, you know, it's kind of like Orion. You almost can't get low enough power on it to really appreciate it. Now I had to keep going down and down and down, but I enjoyed the high power because I went into these dust lanes in here and just kind of tooled around in here and just got some fabulous detail in here. And it was amazing how much detail there was in the dust lane of the galaxy. It was really amazing. And I caught it right at, it was transiting, which was perfect. And I got high power and low power views of it. And yeah, it's a view I'll never forget. It was just absolutely stunning. So my last object, I wasn't sure how I was going to end this. And, with all the objects that I saw, I wasn't sure, like, well, what really, how can I end this that would make like a bang? And I thought back to the 2 nights, and there was one object that just stood out amongst the rest. And it wasn't 2683, which I did look at down there, by the way, and it just absolutely looked stunning. But I looked at this next object, and I've seen it 100 times, if not more, from various locations, from my house, my driveway, DS1, DS2, DS Edge, Hawk Mountain, Cherry Springs, everywhere. And when I put my eye to the eyepiece, it was really the jaw-dropping moment. And I decided that I just was going to just enjoy the view, and I just stayed with it. And instead of like going to higher power and trying to get in there and see what I could pick out, I stayed at medium power. And this is about, without the color.
Yeah.
This kind of represents kind of in my brain what I saw when I looked in the eyepiece. It was absolutely just a river of galaxies, and not just a river of galaxies, a river of bright galaxies, clearly discernible, of different shapes, different sizes, different elongations, different angles. I was overwhelmed by it, and I just didn't change eyepieces. I just said, you know what, I don't have to do anything else here to enjoy this view. And I literally just took my telescope and sailed up and down the river of the galaxies for about 15 minutes and just couldn't get enough of it. So, I guess, it's clear what I'm saying is that, dark skies, good horizons, no light pollution, good optics, high power, everything going for you. You just see things that you don't experience at other times. And I was just thrilled to get those 2 nights. I'm hoping to get back there. I'd like to get back to this coming dark window if possible, but it just gets to be a really crazy time of the year. But anyway, so that's my presentation.
Well, it's funny, Rob, because it was such a blitz of just night after night after night. And then when I was driving home, I was like, oh, I should have looked at 1275. That probably would have been awesome. But I didn't, so I'm glad you did.
Yeah, it was spectacular. And I've said this before, I think back about when I first got into the hobby, and I'd be observing from my driveway, and Karl would say like, oh, try this 1275 group in Perseus, and I go, oh, where's that? And then I'd like star hop to it, and I'd have like a 10 or 12.5 inch from my driveway, and no regular eyepieces, using, I forget even what I was using before, the high-end eyepieces came out, like back in the late 90s. But you would see 1 or 2 galaxies, maybe 3 or 4, and go like, oh wow, that's really cool, that's a galaxy cluster, that's really cool. And then you advance that to last month at Calhoun, and it was just like, wow, it's just like the universe is so awe-inspiring that
now we have a real challenge for Josh.
I'm still talking about it almost a month later.
And Rob's, his 20. To see if we can see the double nuclei, as you can see in this photograph
Josh.
that zoomed in on the.
All right, let's see here. I'm going to.
So interesting to find out.
Video here. Share screen.
This is visible. It would require high magnification. I'm thinking over 500 in any of these big scopes. So, be an interesting challenge.
All right, is that working?
Yep.
All right, so I thought it was very fitting to start with this picture, which Karl uses. I believe this is the one you use in the beginning of the video, Karl. as this picture was taken down at Pettigrew State Park down in North Carolina years ago. I can't even remember when this picture was taken. From the looks of the scope, I don't think it had a drive on it at that point. No, it does. It does. I see a little lever on the front of it. So I could probably figure out exactly when this picture was taken if I put my mind to it, but I know it was years ago. But that's Lake Phelps in the background, and that's the parking lot of the boat ramp where we set up and observe at Pettigrew State Park. It's one of those cases where got to kind of call the ranger and ask for permission, that sort of thing. But it's a good southern spot that we like because it gets us out of the weather system that we're typically under in the Northeast. Will be different by the time you get down to this site in North Carolina. So originally the plans for this dark window was for me and 2 other Chesmont members to head out to New Mexico, and we had rented a place on Airbnb where we could set the scopes up and leave them set up and stay camped out for hopefully was going to be about a 10-day trip. And of course, as fate would have it, New Mexico, the skies have been like clear. Like you just check the forecast for, weeks in advance. And it's just clear day, clear night, clear day, clear night. And of course, it was nothing but clouds the night we were supposed to arrive. So went to a plan B and wound up just having an amazing dark window. I outside of Texas Star Party in 2012, I don't recall a dark window that was ever so productive or so giving in great views. So kicked off the first observing session for the dark window was down at Pettigrew State Park. And I think the view of the night down there was ARP 157, which is also known as NGC 520. And this is in Pisces. And it's the nickname of this is the Flying Ghost. So I thought it was very fitting for around the Halloween time to be looking at the Flying Ghost. And one of the things that Pettigrew is known for as a site, it's very near sea level. I think it's only a few feet above sea level, but it is incredibly stable air. And when it comes to a big Dob, seeing is incredibly important. And this view here did not disappoint. You could see a lot of the detail that you see in this photograph. Now it was fainter, but it was still there. And actually, like the thing that was nice about this is with the different views, it offered like a different experience with it. In the 7 Pentax, you got a lot of the detail. In the lower powers, you got more of like the ghost flying through the air kind of experience. But neat object, shows lots of detail, and this was probably one of the favorite views from Pettigrew. So came home, did a local night at Hawk Mountain, and then headed down to Calhoun County State Park in West Virginia. And this was a view that I had from down in Calhoun, Abel 2593. And I did not individually label all these galaxies in the photo any more than I did the night I observed them. One of the things I'm trying to get away from is when I'm at a good dark site and I have good skies cooperating with me, I used to just, take a lot of time to sit there and, figure out every single galaxy, who it was, what it meant, what the magnitude was. Now I count the galaxies, and I enjoy the view. And Rob, it was very interesting to hear you talk about your experience with 1275. I heard you talk about it, like immediately connected to what you were saying when you said you could see the orientation of the galaxies. One of the things that stood out with this view here was size, shape, and orientation. Like they weren't just fuzzy dots of light. Mm-hmm. And my experience is that's the difference between a local observing site and a high altitude dark observing site. From home, you would probably see most of these galaxies, but you wouldn't see the extensions on them. You wouldn't see the shape, the size, the orientation. They'd just be points of light, which in and of itself is fun to observe. but it's like the difference between analog TV and a high definition TV. Like everything is there, and it becomes more of an observing experience than just a visual observation. So this was a fun view. In the 10 ethos, there were 10 galaxies. So I was like, huh, that's like 1 galaxy per millimeter for my eyepiece. So 10 for 10. Kind of inspired me to go 8 for 8 and 13 for 13. And
Put a 25 millimeter in there.
yeah, exactly. So 550 million light years away, and just soaking up the view and seeing the size and shape, and you just realize, like, wow, like this is it's a pretty cool view. So then one of the other views that I liked, and this is in here as an observation, but also as a follow-up observation. So NGC 403 and NGC 399, which actually is not in this picture, were 2 galaxies that really stood out. And I did not pick this field apart. I just did the casual observation and noted that I liked it because of 403 and the companion 399 and the M asterism of stars, which you can see down here below the galaxy. Now this photo is upside down. I left it in this orientation since everything was labeled, but you can imagine if this was, flipped around, this would be in an M shape. But what's interesting, and this is why I have this as an observation and also as a to be observed, is I did not pick up on the fact that this bottom aspect of the M was actually a CGCG galaxy. So I want to go back and relook at this. I had the 10 ethos on this, so I may opt to, bump up a little bit to the 7 or the 5 Pentax and see if I can't pull that bottom component of the M as a galaxy. So it's kind of interesting to come home and have a nice asterism marked in my notes. And when I went and reviewed the picture, I was like, huh, there's more to be observed.
So what's the magnitude on that?
15.6.
Oh, easy.
So I'm sure it's easily seen, but the star, there's a star that sits right in it, is 11.2.
Yeah.
So the star just, I just saw the star, saw the other 2 bright galaxies, and totally missed the fact there was probably a little haze surrounding that star. So I'm looking to go back and pin that one down at some point in the future. So again, just kind of fun to have an observation and a to be observed all at the same object. you sit down and dig deeper. So this was the highlight view of the night, and unfortunately this picture is showing up small on the screen now. But this is one that you're going to want to go just cruise around and find some good pictures of this on the internet yourself, and you definitely want to put this in an eyepiece. This was the highlight view of really the entire dark window. NGC 383 group. This was brought to my attention by Chesmont member Fred De Lucia. I don't know if I ever pronounce his name right. I always feel bad. But Fred was like, hey, you guys, remember, look at the 383 group. And he had talked to me in times past about observing this, and I feel like I observed this maybe with my 16. Down
he had observed it the week before up at Frank's.
Okay.
Where the last time he was out.
Okay.
He said, oh, the highlight for me was 383 group, and we all said, like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. That's cool. Yep. And then when we were down in West Virginia, he shot a text on our text string saying, don't forget 383, and that's when we all jumped all over it.
Yep.
Just want to mention real quick, Fred's scope is an 18, so people know what.
Yep. And yes, I put this in the 25, and oh my, it was just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Just a string of just these beautiful, like, pearls just against this black velvet. and it was oriented in the eyepiece, similar to how it is in this picture. So they're just running straight up and down. So it's like this line of galaxies, just beautiful. They're just beautiful. They just stood out. There was no, no need to go averted vision. Just so much detail and beauty just looking in the eyepiece. And then, of course, me being me, I had to then go averted vision, and you start getting some of these fainter members that pop out, and the whole thing was really nice. I think there was like a 16, like a 16.3 or 16.5.
16.6, I think was.
Okay. Yep.
There was a 16.3 and a 16.6, if I remember right. And I couldn't get the 16.6.
Yep.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
I know you did, and others did. I couldn't pick up the 16.6.
Yep.
But yeah, I think you're right. The cool thing about that cluster is that it served two purposes. It was aesthetically pleasing, and then you could dig in and get in the weeds with it if you wanted to.
Yes. Yep. That's exactly right. That's a perfect way of saying it. It's beautiful and challenging all at the same time.
Yep.
So it was good. But I would say that was probably the highlight view of the trip. It was just an incredible dark window from start to finish. It was 2,001 miles of driving. Did a run down to Pettigrew, North Carolina, then a local night at Hawk Mountain, and then 4 nights down in Calhoun County, West Virginia. So I set my trip odometer when Jack Goodwin and Dr. Robert Workman and I headed down to North Carolina, and when I pulled in the driveway from Calhoun, I just crossed the 2,000-mile mark. So that was 5 of the 6 nights were Bortle 2 to 3 skies. 329 individual observations, objects observed.
Wow.
And it was just, I was on a tear, and had a beautiful experience. The last night I was down in Calhoun, just immersed in the absolute beauty of the eyepiece views, and just out there in the dead silence, this dark black sky, Orion swinging overhead, and just totally quiet, no artificial sources of noise, no airplanes, no motors, no generators running, no, nothing, just myself and nature. And the owls were calling. I had 2 owls calling back and forth across me, and a bunch of coyotes howling. And at one point I had some music just kind of playing soft on the phone in the background, and that was like the only artificial noise out there. And at one point the coyotes were harmonizing with the music perfectly, and I was like, this is just
They were pretty loud. They were pretty loud. That I think it was Saturday night. There was clearly a pack of them. I mean, when I observe up in the Adirondacks, I hear them every time I'm out, but I only hear, like, I don't know, it only sounds like, a handful. But that other night, it sounded like there were a lot of them.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of coyote activity down there at Calhoun throughout the night. And the other thing that was interesting about that site too was Friday night. Rob, were you there for Friday night? The Friday night
I was
light?
there Friday and Saturday.
Yeah. So Friday night, Doc and I had observed there Thursday night, not from that field. We observed from another field. So Friday night, when we got to the field where Rob and Doc and a few others that were observing, we noticed this awful light dome off to the I guess that would be like the southwest, and we were like, oh my goodness, we couldn't see that from the other field the night before or any other previous times that Doc and I had been down there. And it didn't take away from the sky a whole lot, except in that immediate area, but it was very noticeable. So throughout the evening, we were commenting about it and kind of wondering what it was and trying to figure it out. And then I guess maybe around 11 o'clock, just disappeared. And that's when I figured it out. Is what's Friday Night Lights. That's why they call it Friday Night Lights. It, you know, it was some town that had some kind of football game going on, because every other night we were there, that light dome didn't exist at all. So it was kind of interesting to be out there in small town America where football is still everything. So, but no, very interesting dark window, great observations. Let's see, I observed with Doc, I observed with Jack, I observed with you, Rob, and Bob Jorgensen. So
Yeah, it was nice to have him there.
Lots of friends. Yep.
Yeah, it was a really good time.
And then real quick, in Pettigrew, it was interesting. There was a fellow down there, I believe his name was Eric. I have it written down. I should have looked at this, but it was interesting because he was out on the dock there at the Lake Phelps when myself and Doc rolled up with our trailers, and he comes walking off the dock. He's like, "Well, I don't know what you guys are up to, but I feel like I'm in the way." He was out there on his bicycle, and I forget what he thought we were doing. We're like, "Well, we're astronomers," and he's like, "You're astronomers with trailers?" And we're like, "Yeah, we too." And Doc said something along the lines of, "We pull these scopes out, you're not going to believe what you see." And that fella, he hung around, and it was not merely a casual passing glance. This guy really got into it, and he stayed with us for most of the night. And we were a few objects in, and he said, "Oh, I have to go back to my camp and get a pen and paper and start writing this stuff down." So he really got into it. So
That's cool.
He's retired, and he was just making a journey around the country.
That's cool.
And he landed there, and lo and behold, here comes 22 and a 25-inch telescope for him to enjoy all night. So it was neat to share that with him.
That's cool.
That's great.
Yep. That's it.
Alrighty. Good job, Josh.
All right, Josh. Damn. How many objects again?
329.
I just think though, that's not even scratching the surface of what's out there to see with that scope.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's
funny, I was thinking, like, guys talk about, you know, I've been working on my Herschel 400 for a few years now. Now, obviously, they're strung out across the sky, so you can't do it all in one night. But I was like, well, I'm almost there. Give me one more night. And as a matter of fact, there was a night that was looking clear up at High Knob during the week. And I said to Jen, I said, if it's clear, I'm blowing off more work. I'm going. I want to hit 400 objects this dark window. Just to say I did it.
Maybe you should just come up with the right 400 and
Yeah.
challenge people to get those 400 objects in one dark window.
Yeah.
right. The heck with Herschel 400. We got the Josh 400, right?
They're all
Bit
17th
more
magnitude.
challenging. Yeah.
They're all 17th magnitude. We want them
Right.
all in one dark window.
Right. All righty. Well,
17.4. That was the deepest I went on this trip. So
that's amazing.
that's out there.
All right, we're going to stop recording here in a minute. That's it for this session of Astro Observers.